So the thing I want to talk about today is a Slasherfest DVD that I got for next to nothing off eBay from Full Moon Entertainment. This comes with 3 slasher films, but they come on their own disc, so that's kind of a good deal. You get Bleed, which I will talk about today. You get Intruder, that I'm not going to talk about because I love Intruder. Y'all know that. I've talked about it a million times on this channel and on my website. So Intruder is here, and it's great that it's here, but I've got the Blu-ray of it. And, you know, what more can I say about that I haven't already said? And the third thing being Cutthroat, which I will mention today. But we'll start off with Bleed, which I guess is Full Moon's answer to Scream at the time, I guess you could say. Not as smart, nowhere near as smart, but it's kind of a halfway interesting story. It's about this woman, and she shows up in town. As soon as she shows up, like, people are dying. And she meets this guy where she works, and she goes and she hangs out with his friends, and they confess to her that they're in a murder club where you have to kill somebody to be part of the club. And what happens is that she goes and she kills somebody. And then she tells them, and then we find out that, you know, maybe things aren't necessarily as up and up as they were making them out to be. So that part of it is kind of clever. There's a bit of a mystery, but, you know, behind what is going on, because you may not actually guess what is going on. So I'll give it that. But there's a lot of stuff that probably doesn't make a lot of sense if you want to totally, you know, analyze everything that happens plot-wise and say, well, this happens here, and then she arrives, and then this happens here, and you want to go and you want to, like, make some kind of conspiracy board. It don't really all add up. But for what it is, it does have some pretty good bloody moments. It's got some nudity in it, which is always good for a slasher film. It's got that Full Moon flavor to it, for better or worse, which I think they produced this, but it was produced for something that wasn't Full Moon at the time. It was something else, but it's Full Moon, obviously. And for whatever that is, take that for what you will. But it's okay. It's watchable. It's got a pretty interesting finale. But as far as, like, slashers go, it's probably nothing you're going to go back and want to watch 100 times over. Although it does have, like I said, its moments here and there and it's obvious they're channeling Scream at times with the killer and all that, but it never reaches that level. But if you like indie slashers that have their moments but still kind of suck, Bleed is one to watch. Which brings us to Cutthroat, which is worse. It's probably maybe a more clever idea, but it's a lot worse on execution. This is a newer trauma film, not necessarily new, but way newer than Bleed is, and it's just got this crazy director and his producer friend, and they're trying to make a movie, and pretty soon people really start dying on the set. So they get a new actress that they know from before, and they bring her in, and things just keep happening. People keep dropping, and like Scream, it's kind of like, well, who did it? So these are both well in that vibe of that time period of horror films, even if I think Cutthroat might have come a little bit afterwards. But it's got some pretty good blood in it too. Like, there's some good gore moments in both films, but that's probably where it's going to stop, more or less. The ideas are good, some of the blood's good, everything else is very bad. Although Cutthroat suffers from having some very, very dull moments and some very stupid moments. There's stuff that happens near the end. Like, there's I don't want to spoil anything, but there's characters that should be dead that are all of a sudden, like, they're there later on. It's like, oh, well, the bullet just grazed me, when obviously I don't know how that happened. But nonetheless, if you're ranking these films, Intruder 5 out of 5. I don't even have to talk about it. You should already know. Bleed, I'm gonna give Bleed maybe a 2 out of 5, and that's a generous 2. Cutthroat, give it a 1. And that's a generous 1. But if you like indie films, you like Full Moon films, if you like slashers, and who don't, then this set is usually pretty cheap online. You can pick it up and buy it. But if you don't have Intruder, it's probably worth it for that. And to have an affordable price Intruder, I guess. Although I don't know if the Blu-ray is really that expensive. But if you just want to pick up a box of movies for a cheap price, then pick it up, but just don't expect too much out of it in general, because Bleed and Cutthroat are very Full Moon, even though that could be taken several different ways.